What are you doing in the store, young man?
No, just turn on the...
Oh, okay. Do you ever walk into Level 7 Games and wonder, how the do they make all these awesome shirts? Well, we're gonna figure that out today. Back there.
I'm such an idiot.
Alright, so what are we doing?
This here's your board. I'm gonna shit on it, and if it then slide around, see if I can do some cool tricks.
Oh, that sounds wicked awesome.
Sorry. We gotta find a screen. Pulling up.
So what is the screen?
So, silk screen, I think it's mostly made out of like plastic, but it used to actually be silk, is an aluminum frame or wooden frame usually, one of the two materials. And then they use an adhesive and they stretch this this screen. You can't really see through it right now, but here, let me find another example for you.
All right.
But what it is small holes. You know, it's an actual screen, just very, very tiny openings, in which we apply an emulsion, which is it's a substance that goes on both sides, and when it is hit by UV light, it reacts and hardens. So what we do is we're going to take a design and we're going to put it on the back side of it, blast it with UV light, and what happens is where the design is, the light doesn't pass through, and so the emulsion in that particular area won't harden and is water soluble. So then we can spray it out with a power washer and then press ink through the openings.
Sweet. All right, well, let's get to it.
Welcome to the dungeon. This here is our dip tank. It's a lot like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but for screen printing.
Ah,
So
not erasing cartoons, just the ink and stuff.
just old designs that are no longer needed or useful. So we're gonna toss that in there and let it sit for a little while it breaks down the ink and the emulsion.
All right, cool beans.
So what we use is a transparency paper that basically allows us to print as dark as we possibly can the image that we plan on burning to the screen. And what it does is it allows the light to pass through the rest of the paper, right? So the only thing that will be blocking the UV light when we turn on the light will be the ink on the transparency paper, but the rest of the screen will harden the emulsions.
Nice.
So you take your ink remover and your haze ghost remover. Apply those. Give them a nice little abrasive scrub. Now, the whole reason we're doing this is to remove any remnants of our previous image. And that's important because sometimes the chemicals that we're using, the inks that we're using on the next image will adhere to those to the old design and any of the chemicals left behind. So it's important to get rid of as much as possible to start with the cleanest screen you possibly can. All right, so now that our screen is cleaned off and nice and crispy looking.
Ooh. Nice and clear.
It's not perfect, but I've used this screen a million times. It'll do. Anyhow, what we're going to do is emulsify the screen. And what that means is we have to get our emulsion inside of this little scoop coater here, which applies the emulsion to the screen. Oh, I almost screwed that all up here. I'm trying to find a good angle here for you.
It's all good. I'll get it.
And we don't need a whole lot since we're only doing one screen. That should probably be enough. Maybe a little more. Now, remember, this stuff is light sensitive, so you do want to use it in a UV free or UV light area, so it doesn't start to prematurely harden or...
And he does mean light as in not a lot.
That's what I mean.
Not heavy in UV light.
There you go. There's not a lot of UV light present
Yeah.
in the room that you're doing this.
Don't do it in a UV lit room.
Which is why we built this little murder closet.
Yeah. Nobody's died in here.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we got our scoop coater full of emulsion,
Buddy, look up.
we're going to apply the emulsion to the screen.
Oh.
Let me show you how. So, there's two sides of your screen. Here's your substrate side, and this is your inkwell side. Okay, so we want there to be more emulsion on the substrate side, and that's how we're going to dry it, is like this. So we're going to apply the emulsion to the substrate side first, then the inkwell side second, to push it through as much as we can. Now, here's a bit more of a delicate process. You got to have a balance, otherwise you'll spill this stuff everywhere. And you start at the bottom, kind of get it where you want to go, and then you're going to go ahead and just scrape it up slowly. Not too much pressure, but enough to get it in there.
That was buttery smooth.
And then you're going to get a nice glossy finish on that.
Nice.
And now we're going to do the inside. Once you've got your coating on both sides, you want to inspect it and make sure that there are no bubbles, no streaks, anything like that that could affect your final image. And then you can load it into your drying rack, like I said, substrate side down for drying. Usually takes about an hour.
Nice.
And then what we're going to do is reclaim as much of this emulsion as possible, because the stuff is expensive. And waste not, want not, huh?
Hell yeah.
So we'll just dump that right back in there.
Sexy.
I just want to eat it. It looks like bubble gum.
It kind of does, like melted bubble gum. Don't eat it.
Don't eat the emulsion.
Yeah.
If you eat the emulsion, tell me how it makes you feel.
Yeah, and that's not our fault.
Yeah, we're not telling you to do it. We're just telling you if you do, we want to know all about it.
Big disclaimer on the screen right now. Don't eat it! No! Did you pop all of it? Raph, look up and say I did it.
I did it.
Hooray.
All right, Raph, what's the next step?
This and not in here.
That's right. All right. So, what we're doing now is we are applying tape to the back side of the image on the transparency that we printed from earlier, with the adhesive side facing up, and we are going to put the pre-emulsified and dried screen on top, and it's going to be under there.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that's
All
a
right.
little drying rack. And we're going to tape that to the back side. We're going to tape the image to the, it's called the substrate side. of the pre-emulsified screen. And we're gonna line it up to make sure that our image is as centered on the screen as possible. So when we put it on the rack, it's easier to line it up, especially when you're doing multiple color images. It's important for the image to be placed on the screen in nearly identical parts of the screen. That way it's easier to line up and possible, because sometimes if you're off by too much, you know, the screen only has, or the press will only have so much wiggle room and discrepancy that you can move the screen around. So, right. So this is our image on the transparency taped to the substrate side of the screen. Can you spin it around real quick? And it should look like that from the inkwell side, with the image facing the correct direction. So when we put it on that big light box back there and blast it with UV, there you go, that's a great example.
There you go.
Only the part with the image will will not be hardened. Alright, so the next step is to burn our screen. And how we do that is we have a light box that currently is only got our safe yellow light, which does not put out any UV light at all. So we can set everything up, and then all of these bulbs in here that are not on are all black light bulbs. They're UV bulbs, so they will burn the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and close our vacuum seal screen burning unit. I'll lock that sucker down. And then we turn on the old handy dandy vacuum, which has got this hose here that leads up right to where the string is. And as you can see, what it's going to do is it's going to start to suck the air on this rubberized blanket and get a nice tight grip. And the reason that we do this is so that it's putting our transparency paper in our image
Then do I turn it off?
tightly against against the emulsion, so we don't get any bleed over of light. So now you can go ahead and fire on the blue light. Boom. And we'll let that cook for 2 minutes. Alright, now that we have our burnt screen, you can't tell a difference yet, but just wait. Where the ink was, the emulsion should still be water soluble. So John's going to take his handy dandy power washing gun and so immediately you can start to see, and I'll show you here in just a sec, some results. If you show me the, yeah. You can start to kind of see the image making its way out, but we're going to go pretty slowly. You don't want to risk blowing out the image. Front side and back side, just spraying it a little at a time until. What I would actually do is I'd get that rag, that white rag in that bucket, and just kind of wipe down both sides just to braise it a little bit. It just helps the water blow it out a little quicker. Now, depending on how you set up your emulsion and your burn, sometimes it's a little easier to wash these out. I cook my screens for a long time, so sometimes it takes a minute. But so our image is starting to appear. I'm just going to give it a couple more sprays.
So yeah, you can tell me if I'm doing this terribly wrong.
I would. You're doing a good job.
Okay, good.
It's hard once the image starts to blow out. It's hard not to get excited and just keep going. But yeah, you want to keep taking your time, going back and forth. But this should be the last pass. And as you can see, the image is really starting to appear in the screen now. Perfect. All right. Now, what you're going to want to do is just hold it up to the light and make sure that you didn't miss any pieces of emulsion. You want to be able to see through any of the parts that the image that you should be able to see through.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's take it outside and let it bake in the sun for a sec.
Sweet. Yeah, now we're outside.
Now we're outside, but there is sun and true UV. So we're gonna let our screen bake in the sun for a little bit to make sure that the emulsion is fully exposed, and then we can start to get the screen prepped for the press and start making some shirts. What do you think of that, John?
That's freaking awesome. I'm stoked. Yeah.
All right. So now our screen is officially burned, and we have our image. Whoa! Looks nice and crispy and sharp. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna tape off the screen with this tape here to make sure to cover up any of the edges so ink doesn't accidentally bleed through on the garments as we're pressing them.
This is a ghost.
What are you talking about?
This logo.
Oh, okay.
So the trick to this is, at least in my opinion, this is how I do it. I'll cut a length as long as I need it. I'll press it to the inside edge of the outside there, so it makes sure that I'm covering up those empty spots.
Right.
I'll tighten that down, and then just slowly work my way in.
Nice.
Screen printing, one of the most important and hardest things to do is to make sure you don't get ink all over yourself. And a good tape job is one of the key components to that. All right. So now we've got tape all along the outside. We're going to tape off our registration marks to make sure that those don't get on the shirt. Add some ink and start making some shirts.
Well, hell yeah.
All right. So we've got our screen. We got some ink loaded on it with our squeegee, which I think is wide enough. Now that I think about it, might need a wider squeegee. Let's try this again. Now that we've got our screen ready to go with some ink loaded on top and ready to press, everything's taped off and all of the everything's lined up to the press board themselves. We're gonna put a little bit of adhesive, which lets our shirt stick to the it's called the platen while we're pressing it. This is a test shirt. This isn't the final, but since this is the first time we're gonna press it, figured I'd pick a light color so you can see what the image is going to look like, but at the same time, it's not a shirt that I care about. So we don't got to worry about lining it up too much. And cool. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. So I am going to spread out this ink a little bit more just to make sure we get a full coverage. Set that right there, and let's go ahead and give it a shot.
Wow, it just fills right in.
Sure does. Now, when we lift it, got a nice, solid print of our sick-ass Doom Demon. So let's try to press it on one of the one of the final shirts now. All right, John, you ready to press the first official shirt?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay.
Screw it up.
No, you got this. There you go. All the way. Lift it. One more. Get a nice dark print on there. Cool, and then go ahead and
Just lift it?
Yep, should be good to lift up.
Right.
And then you can remove the shirt from there. We'll go ahead and heat it up, put it under the heater, and cure it. Let's take a look at that sucker real quick.
Or I guess I should. flip it around a little bit better. There we go.
Yeah, that looks
Yeah.
All right, now it's ready to put in the heater. While under the flash dryer, we're not going to use the oven just yet since we're not in full production mode. But this puppy right here gets up to 500 degrees, and we're going to let it cook for about 10 seconds, which is going to let our ink cure. So then you can wash it as many times as you want, and it'll stay. The image will remain. That's good. You'll see a little discoloration in the shirt itself just because we heated it up so much, but that will return to normal. But otherwise, that looks pretty friggin' cool, my dude.
Why, thank you. I'm pretty proud of it. Sweet.
Alrighty, we made a shirt. Let's make more.
Okay.
Oh, hey guys, how's it going? It's me, John. Just wanted to let you know that we are open today as of Friday, May 1st for curbside delivery, and that we take your safety very seriously. We've created this new prototype of a pandemic-proof hazmat suit to protect you, the people, where you can still get your video games and, honestly, I'm having trouble breathing. Why don't you guys help me now?
Rip and tear, rip and tear!